Alright, I've got this is the old pinion nut. I'm going to try to open it up a little bit because I don't want this to, I'm going to use this basically as my dummy nut. Okay, I'm going to try to take off a little bit. I want this thing to go on this pinion easy. It's just the last little bit I think that's got it. I might have to get some polishing compound and just polish it out. I'm trying to go easy because I really don't know what I'm doing. There's all this stuff. Most of these things I'm doing, this is my first time. Goes down easy and then bam, right at the end. It just catches. Let's try to polish it. Got some, I don't know what kind of polishing compound. Alright, I tried. I didn't succeed. I'm just going to use this as my washer that I use for all my setup stuff. I mean, nut, and I'm going to use the other washer too. And then I'll use the only other one I got for the final setup when I actually torque it. I'm actually going to try to use this to even get my crush sleeve right, so hopefully it'll work. I'm gonna check to see the difference in this crush washer. I'm trying to be careful, keep most of this stuff separate. Okay, the new one is 1.408. 1.408. The old one is crushed down to, honestly, calipers aren't the best way to check this, but this is a quick check. So 1.353.4. So that's definitely been crushed. Because these two are probably for our main pinion bearing. I need to get another one of these because I got to figure out what I want to do. Now, I'm not against for setting up. I'm not against using an old set of bearings as long as everything measures the exact same. We're not doing preload. We're not checking preload here. I don't think that that's a big deal. But if the measurements don't work, I'm not going to do it. There we go. Just make sure that your oil cylinder is not part of the resistance on here. I didn't want to damage it. Shop presses are well worth their money. Yep, that was done. Alright, so I was able to press this off. That was real easy. No shims, just I guess this guy was the shim. So to mic that up, and actually this, I'll have to admit, this cheap Harbor Freight bearing puller did a pretty good job. This damages the cage, so this is no good, but it's not that bad. It beats to me cutting the cage and then having to like air hammer this thing off or something like that. So now what I'm going to use, I'm going to hone this out a little bit. I'm going to use this to help install my bearings for later. I'd almost use this as a setup one because I don't see even a ding on this thing, but I don't trust it, and I'm not sure I can properly measure this thing to guarantee that I didn't hurt anything. Just because I don't want to run out to the store, I'm going to check from distance from here to the bottom here, because this here is between this and this is what sets our depth. These have to have a certain preload, but that's not done at this step. This is just for gears. This preload is going to be taken care of when we do our crush washer. So again, it's not this to here to here, it's from here to down here. That's the distance we're looking. So I measured this down to these parallels. I use it on both sides to try to make sure that everything is even. And I'm getting probably 998 to 999. So I'm going to get a new set of bearings. I'm going to check to see if that's the same thing. Okay, I know y'all couldn't see that, but I'm basically getting, I don't know, getting 0.998. I feel like there's roughly a thou difference. I'm gonna do this again. I think it's close enough, especially for a front diff. I'm getting 99998. So these are basically the same. They're within probably half thou of each other. My understanding is that there's a rule of thumb. You can see there's a rule of thumb that that you can take the difference from here to here, and then you can add that and shim, and that will put you where you're at. I feel weird looking down here. Oh well. So if that's the case, then I just need to add the difference to those two. That being said, I'm leaning towards just going to the 7.2 because I've heard that tends to just be right. Or something like this. Let me check it again. Because that being said, I could have like been hitting something weird. If you just go with the rule of thumb, I believe it said 60. So yeah, I got about 60 thou. So if you just do the math that way, then I need to add 17. So that would put me at so I'd add 17. Basically, I'd add 17 thousandths. All right, apply just a touch of grease to the back side of this bearing, and I went ahead and I've had this I've had my locker in the freezer. You know, make sure you don't push on this cage part. All right, there we are. All right, let's put a little bit of grease on the back side of these, right there. That, or I guess the light oil will be fine. There we go. That's awesome. The only one's only slip on because this thing's pretty cold. See, that's perfect right there. I walked off with the arm. It's the only problem with these things, you lose them. All right, it's seated. I just always like to give it a second to build up a little pressure. All right, I'm getting the housing all cleaned up. I finally got both sides of my ball joints out. I'm waiting to get these guys out because I just want to make sure that when I drill that I'm clear of the bolts and stuff like that. So I'm holding up on that a little bit. And then right now I've done all the measuring I can on this differential. There's not much I can do. I don't really know how to shim one way versus the other to even get close to the backlash I had before, because the gear sets are different, the housings are completely different. I'm not talking, it's just like I showed you before, like the steps, everything is different. So I'm just gonna have to get this in here and then just play around with it. I went ahead and ended up picking up a cheap spreader. So I wasn't going to do this, but I broke down. I was like, man, if I have to have it, I'm going to be so pissed if I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't want to have to worry about, well, if I only had that spreader. So, because I'm real paranoid about smacking them that ARB with having that copper line running off of it. I've broken those before, and it sucks. Luckily, this one's set up so much better though. The one on the 11.5 inch AAM, I guess it's a 14 bolt maybe. When that one broke, it's really frustrating because you have to pull the bearings to replace it. And in fact, because of that differential, I'm actually going to have to get a bearing puller, I think, at some point, because in so many years, unless I want to always replace the bearings, which it's not a big deal to do that on that. Well, actually, even if I do replace the bearings, I run the risk of damaging the. I like this. I actually like the way this one's set up a little bit better because you have the air part on the outside of the locker.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go warm up. I'm gonna warm up the stove, get this ring gear hot, and then gonna install everything. Well, install that part, and then I'm gonna take a few measurements, start getting my shims out, and see what the heck I think I can do.